Okay, so Zomino, you said you hate Fairy Tail or you prefer Rave Master more. Why is that? Honestly, I can understand that sentiment. I never got to finish Rave Master. I did watch videos that say on it, but I can understand why people do not like Fairy Tail. As someone who was an avid watcher of Fairy Tail back in the day, and got really disgusted with the fan service it got, um, because I used to be a Fairy Tail watch. I was so into it, and then they had the hiatus because they decided to do to be continued. Like I think they had the first 175 episodes, right? And then what had happened was they needed a break, right? So they took a full like 2 to 3 year break, right? And I tried going back to the anime. The first half of the anime was so colorful. The first 175 episodes. Then the second half was just ugly. Like it was so dark and muted. And then it had so much more fan service. So I'm like, I can't watch it. But I was just like, I felt like they also ruined characters. I'm not gonna lie. Also, I have certain things I need to talk about Lucy though, because people be like the female protagonist that got to grow. I was just like, it took her 10 years to grow. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but okay. But I have my gripes. I have my gripes with it. I have so many gripes. Okay. Let me get down to why. Again, you guys could feel like you like Fairy Tail. As someone who used to like Fairy Tail, this is why I did not like it after a while. Because people be like, oh, just because the power of friendship. No. Let me tell you why that really started getting on my nerves. Because Kingdom Hearts, power of friendship, that makes sense, right? Right? It makes perfect sense. The reason why the power of friendship felt like a nonsensical thing at some point is because they brought in the concept of death with Simon, right? But then when it came to characters, when it came to the Fairy Tail Guild, they're like, oh, you know what? Actually, death is not a concept, right? And I was just like, why you bringing this in then? It felt so stupid. It was just like, is death a consequence or something? It was kind of like, you know how over time people be like, so remember when Dragon Ball Z used to bring in the concept of death and now no one ever talks about it? It was like that. So what had happened was the first 175 episodes, aside from filler or whatever, it was alright. I really liked the Elderless arc, whatever. They had the Grand Prix games, whatever. And I was very excited for it. And then they started bringing up this whole dragon thing scenario. I was like, huh? But I just felt like the fan service was going insane for some reason. I was just like, there was always some fan service, but it was just getting ridiculous, right? Also, why you even like Brave Master? That was my second part of the question, But like, yeah, you said Rave Master is better than Fairy Tail, but I remember Rave Master being a lot more shorter in terms of the anime, and they never rebooted it. So, anywho, but speaking of which, that's crazy. Eden Zero still only has 25 episodes, but like I think the the manga's finished or close to finished, so we can see which one's the golden child. So my problem with Fairy Tail was the biggest one was stinking Juvia and Gray. Not gonna lie, cause shipping, I'm not gonna lie, I am a fan of shipping, but you know how you guys were talking about how you want the experience romance as a part of I feel like the romance was getting annoying. Like, I feel like romance because I don't know who still watches Fairy Tail, but it was so weird how the only romance that actually went throughout the years was only Ray Juvia, Gajion Levy, because they ain't gonna do anything with Lucy and Natsu, and Urza and Jalal can't really do anything, but that's kind of hinted at and whatever. And technically, all of them are hinted at with their elderless versions. But I personally enjoy the weapon magic system better with the transforming weapon. Also, one of the things I see is people say this is genius, how Fairy Tail just uses, or Rave Master just uses Fairy Tail, and same with Eden Zero. And I was just like, I don't know about you, but I think that's kind of just no. Like, Hiro Mashima does it for everything. Like, all the characters be looking the same at some point. I'm like, at some point, I remember watching Eden Zero. I was just like, did he just make two Wendy's? Two adult Wendy's? I was just like, bro needs to, like, change his designs. I was like, no. Anywho, the one that grossed me out the most though is Gray and Juvia, and people be like, "Oh no, but she's good." Nah, because tell me how in the Grand Magic games, he's like, Gray literally makes this stand. He's like, "I don't want you," right? He's like, "I'm gonna stand," and I understand he's the tsundere, right? He's like, "I'm gonna speak for myself, and I want to reject you," or whatever, right? And she's like, "Actually, this just makes me want you more." He's like, "This is a new me." And it's like, it just goes over the head, right? And I just kind of did not like that. I was like, what was the point of this confession? It did nothing for his character. And then later on, they just kind of make it where she, like, kills his dad. And it's just like, thank you. And then Gray's just like, this accepts Juvia. I'm just like, what is the whole point of him rejecting her, essentially? Like, I get that you have to break the ice with him, but it was so weird because I understand that originally it was supposed to be Gray and Urza was meant to be together, but they decided to change it. Anywho, like how Toriyama would make a character that is a copy of Gohan whenever he was artist for a game. There's like 10 different Gohans during this. Yeah, I know, I saw that. I was just like, bro, what? Anywho, I I just don't like the way Fairy Tail does things. And then there was this scene, right? I think you remember it. The stinking Urza versus Irene fight, where Wendy heals Urza, and she's just like, I'll just have to punch you with my fist, and she just I remember someone and I were talking, we're just like, yes, Urza just magically just gets super strong and just uses all her force to just punch a dragon. Or like, what the turd is this, right? And we're like, what is this crackhead energy right now? It was just like, some of this is, I don't like that Gildart. It's just red hair shanks. Gildart character was just so underused. It was just like, alright, I'm Guildmaster, I'm not gonna do anything, bye. It was just like, he comes in for the S class, he's supposed to be strong, but he doesn't want any responsibility. He finds out he has a kid. He's kind of useless, low-key. It's like, why are you even a wizard in this if you're not gonna do anything? I don't like his character, right? I don't know if you know anything about the 100-Year Quest. So, a lot of people like to be like, I love Lucy. I love Lucy. Anywho, which she's the most over-sexualized character. So I'd be like, what do you mean? The character with the most progress, but like, and you know, like I mentioned before, characters can be sexualized, whatever. But it's just so funny where they'd be like a character who gets to actually progress, but you know, you have people who be like Fire Force Tamaki because she has the super luck or super bad luck, which means she's always over sexualized. And they have a problem with her. Don't have a problem with Lucy. My problem with Lucy wasn't even that. My problem with Lucy is people be acting like she gets so much development, but it is just like the how long it took for her to get developed because she always got shafted. It's just astronomical. Like you have to wait so long for her to get developed. And don't get me wrong, she does do stuff like she does win fights. Like since like the Gray arc. But like dang, it's just like she's a better Sakura, that's for sure. But it's just like why are we acting like she's Lala from Love Root? It isn't. Well, I feel like To Love Root is just the sexualization thing, so it's just like I just heard that's literally how people like the boys back then would say To Love Root is just a sexualized game or a sexualized manga. So I don't read it, but I just know that's what it is. So but that's not even my like I said. The problem with Lucy was just like I just remember seeing it's like the character who actually got to grow. So, but it's fine that it takes her forever, but it's just kind of like you have to wait until like the 100-year quest or like so long for her to develop. It feels like what if that never got canonized though? Like what if you that never like you know the sequel never came because technically the show was gonna it was originally not gonna come back, so it was just like that would have been a horrible way for her to get her redemption. Do you guys get what I'm trying to say? For her to get her like her time to shine later, much later on, would have been horrendous. Because don't get me, she did get to like win in the past. But I'm saying like during like the Grand Magic games, they did her so dirty. Like she lost in her match because they decided to use some kind of magic to nullify her magic. Then she got brutalized. Like her, it was just like dang, they did her so dirty. So it's just like, but I don't know. I just think it kind of just it was. I think it was just going all over the place. Ongoing series didn't become a fire until the second to last arc of DBC. Yeah, it was always shown that Gohan had potential. With Lucy, she was always like a background character though. And the thing with Gohan though, he wasn't the main character. Like the main character was always Goku. It was just one of those things where Gohan had potential. I feel like that's the problem though. Lucy is technically the main character, but she's always treated like the side character or the character who's looking. But she's never actually doing anything like in terms of showing that she's supposed to be the main character. That's why people always think Natsu is the main character. And I understand why people think Natsu is the main character. Because it's okay to have a weak character. Or to acknowledge that she's a weak character. But just put into perspective, if this was Naruto, right? And instead of Naruto being the main, or instead of, let's say this was a perspective of Sakura, right? Because we talk about Sakura, right? Let's say Sakura was who we were focusing on, right? Instead of Naruto. And the whole time we were focusing on Sakura, she did absolutely nothing until the end of part 1, where she finally gets training. And you're like, what? Move the plot. I think the reason why it's kind of not the same with The Legend of Zelda is because you're playing as Link. So even though Zelda is the or yeah, Zelda is the main focal point, you are always having the perspective of Link. So like so the main focal point is Zelda, right? But she's getting kidnapped for X, Y, and Z, right? Link is who you're playing as, right? So which is why he's technically the main character. Um, and you're like, okay, this is what I have to do in order to like get to Zelda. While Lucy is the main character who you're following, who doesn't move the plot. She kind of just witnesses the plot, but she does have her moments to shine. But it's like, okay, let's just kind of run it back. So, first plot is we're not gonna talk about like the mini fights. Let's talk about the first fight with Gray. Let's go with the Gray arc. So she does fight with the Gray arc. She wins. Urza arc, she wins. In the Fairy Tale battle arc, she wins. Like, she does win these fights and whatnot. But I think it's just like the problem is like she wins, but it's always about Natsu. I think that's the problem. It's like at the end of the day, it's always gonna be about Natsu being the main thing. It's like, which is kind of crazy because I kind of hated that. But that was one of the things I hated. It's like, for the Gray story, Natsu kind of takes the win. Urza's story, Natsu kind of takes the win. It's just like you could have had them have their moment. With the Wendy story, I could kind of understand Natsu taking the win there. Edalus arc, that one was a 3-man team, so it was the 3 of them working together. I don't remember what Lucy did there, low-key. I don't remember what Lucy... Yeah, what did Lucy do? Yeah, and that was one of the other things for Lucy. Is like, Lucy, even though she does something, she technically doesn't do anything because her thing revolves around using keys, which is still not her fighting. And then she later gets a whip. So, and then she's shown to be smart. I don't know. like, I'm trying to think of all the other battles. Yeah, she gets a whip later on. Yeah, I was just like, what did she really do? And then the tournament arc is the next one. Tournament arc. Oh, the everybody jump. No, the wish arc. She gets to help with the final battle, and then the team up with Natsu. Okay, she does do a little bit there. With the tournament arc, she gets bodied like crazy. Then dragons come out, and she helps with doing something with the keys. Yeah, she's literally she moves the plot forward, but she doesn't really do fighting stuff until very late in the series. Like, really fight stuff. Like, it's always towards the tension of Natsu. I think that's the main problem. Is that it's always like Natsu gets the main battle win. It's just like, I understand why. Because it's like, it's a shonen. Yeah, like, I understand why, because it's a shonen and it's catered to the male audience, and they want the man to do the saving and X, Y, and Z. Kind of like with like My Hero, Bleach, X, Y, and Z. But it's just kind of like, it's like, dang, Lucy. So yeah, it's just kind of weird. I just realized that, and I was just thinking about because I was thinking about Eden Zero, right? Because the whole time there's a girl named Rebecca. I don't know how far in Eden Zero, right? But there's a girl named Rebecca. She doesn't have any skills for the longest time. And then they give her such a cheap cop out ability that it feels like what the turn when she gets one. Her skill is going back in time, and you're like, isn't this so OP? You're like, how the turn does she get such an OP skill? You're like, ain't no way someone could be. You're like, I feel like she's too overpowered at this point because she doesn't get anything to do for like the whole season. She gets one fight, and because so OP, and you're like, excuse me. And so it's just like the balancing on these characters become so egregious where you get either under leveled or overpowered, and it feels so insane. I did take, I don't even know Ellie. I just remember she had Tompa blasters, but I guess it's because like the whole thing was just weapons based. So, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just like, but like it was always it wasn't her perspective, so it kind of makes sense why is not her focus, but like she had a tragic backstory, so it's kind of like okay, but yeah, it's kind of like dang. But yeah, did anything I said even make sense? Like I don't know, like I understand the love towards Lucy. At the same time, though, I don't really think she's as influential as people think she is, though. That's the one thing. But like, I guess it's progress. It's kind of like when people were making a big deal of Nobora, and then you find out later on. What's up, lol? How much of a fail they do towards her. It looks like Jala needs her to power some of the device things. So yeah. So yeah. I don't know. It feels kind of weird. But yeah, what do you guys think about the whole situation? Yeah. do you like Lucy, or how you feel about Lucy? You think she got the justice you deserve? You think it took too long to get there? Do you think she was an improvement to Sakura, or you think like she had good pacing? Like I know she did more. I will give her credit. Like she definitely did more. I just feel like um at the same time, like it always felt like it didn't do as much. Like it really, like you had to really look at what she does. I don't know. That's the thing. It's just like she does do stuff, but it just doesn't really feel like anything. That's the one thing. It just always feels like she's a side character. That's the one thing. When she's the main character.